Consider this my life path, this blue line. And all of a sudden you get to a point and you come to a stop. And boom, it smacks you right in the face because you weren't expecting adversity. Something goes wrong, whether it's a small road bump or something big, it's bad. Like, you gotta deal with it now. Oh, hey, what's up? You are watching Unstoppable, and today is another Unstoppable Sunday. On Unstoppable Sundays, we talk about two things. Number one, we ask ourselves, where am I? And number two, we ask ourselves, what do I do next? I'm recording straight out of this place called Common Desk. It's sort of a co-working space, startup space, right in Dallas, Texas that I found. I'm spending the month here with family, but I take out an hour every Sunday just so I can do these videos and keep up with you guys. Today, I have a really special topic that is near and dear to my heart. But before I talk about today's topic, I just want to say one thing. If you love these videos, please hit the like button. It would make me and the whole team really excited. We want to see more likes because when you hit like, other people in your network get to see it. It helps us out. So please hit like. We do these videos every Sunday, so if you actually enjoy these videos and you just hit like, also hit subscribe and the little bell button, because if you hit subscribe, then you'll get notified as these videos get published, and we do them every Sunday about how to live a more proactive life. As human beings, we love to grow. We always want to go after bigger goals, that next project, the next job, the bigger title. I get it, it's awesome. It's what helps us keep score in life and figure out if we're actually doing things that matter and whether we have impact. Now, no matter how good we get at our jobs, no matter how good we get at planning out the downside and the upside and managing projects and all those things, no matter how good we get, the one thing that's a constant is adversity. And today, I want to talk about adversity. It's not the most fun topic, but I think it's an important topic because I think that in life, we're told three huge lies. And as we get older, we learn to undo those lies that are being told to us. We kind of recognize that they're lies and we fix them. We fix them to be the truths that we care about. The three big lies that I think we're told as we're kids is number one, that life is fair. And number two, that we'll eventually get to a point in our life where there will not be any more problems. We will have solved all the problems that exist, and we get to this magical spot where we don't really have to solve any problems anymore. And number three, there is such a thing as perfect. These are three big lies. Think about it. Life is fair, that we're going to solve all our problems one day, and there is such a thing as perfect. We're going to have that perfect life. Somehow, someone told us this and convinced us of this, and we believed it. And I think that's where unhappiness comes from, because you're going after this piece. At least that's what happened to me. It may not be for everyone, but you go chasing after that perfect. You go chasing after that perfect plan, and you go chasing after getting to that point where you no longer have problems anymore. And eventually life comes along, and I think you go in two roads. One way you go is you just get jaded. And you're like, oh, life sucks, give up, why bother? That's not the way we want to go. That's not the way I want anyone to go that's watching Unstoppable. The other way that you go is you start to recognize that adversity is a common thing, and those lies are not, they're lies. Those things are not true. The ironic thing is that the fact that those are lies is what makes life special. It's the imperfections in our life that make us interesting. No one likes something that's like predictable, always perfect. It's kind of boring. But the rough edges, the bumps in the road, that's what makes life interesting. And it's the road bumps in the road, the adversity that we overcome, that actually helps you grow. Those are, if you think about it, it's the really crappy circumstances in your life are the ones where you really buckle down and said, no, I'm not gonna let this happen. Let's figure this out. That's what happened with me. And that's when you grew the most. That's when you learned the most. So on one hand, you're told life is perfect, you're gonna solve all your problems, and life is fair. On the other hand, you start to recognize that life is not fair, life is not perfect, there's no such thing as perfect, and there's always going to be problems. But in those situations, when you buckle down is where you grow. So all of a sudden, it becomes this ironic, beautiful thing where adversity, where when I said it in the beginning, it's like, oh my God, adversity, this sucks, this is going to be a real downer of a vlog. Adversity is one of the best things about life because it tests you, it pushes you, it helps you grow. And so I wanted to talk about adversity today. Now, the thing is, I've had my fair share of adversity in my life. I've had businesses that almost failed and I had to resurrect them. I've had divorce. I've had family members getting sick. There is no shortage of adversity that you start to get in your life. So naturally, I started developing a framework of how I actually deal with adversity. And that's what I want to talk about today. I think it's the cases where we don't accept adversity and the fact that it just exists, or that we get blindsided by adversity, or we try to escape adversity. Those are the cases where we lose and we don't grow and we go into escapism. But I've learned that it's the cases where you actually have a system, a framework on dealing with adversity, where adversity almost becomes a familiar face and you're kind of like, oh, you again. All right, have a seat, let's talk, let's have some tea. Those are the cases where you actually start to grow more predictably. And I want to teach you about that whole system that I developed today. Hang on, let me get some markers. All right, let's just get organized here. So here's, I got a marker, I got a thing, we're good. Here's how I think about adversity now. So consider this my life path, this blue line. And I'm going I'm like going after something, and all of a sudden you get to a point and you come to a stop. And boom, it smacks you right in the face because you weren't expecting adversity. Something goes wrong, whether it's a small road bump or something big, it's bad. Like, you gotta deal with it now. Now, normally you freak out, you're like, why did this happen to me? This sucks. Like, oh my God, woe is I get it. That's like, you're like, you came from this lie that you were told of life is supposed to be perfect and it's completely fair, and you get to a point where the problems go away. So I get it. Like, you're like, why did this happen? Get over it, okay? Now you've got adversity. And the framework that I apply now, where adversity is almost a familiar face or a friend, where I expect it, but I don't expect it to hurt me as much because I'm prepared. When I think about it that way, I always look at adversity in three scenarios. The first thing that I do, so you've got this dot, and the way I look at it is it can go one of three ways. Now I get it, I may be oversimplifying a little bit, but really when you bucket all the different scenarios, there's three broad ways that this can go. So there is scenario one, which is, this is your worst case scenario. Like, it just goes downhill and it's a crash. Like, you think about what you're like laying there at night, you're stressed out, you're thinking about what's happening. That's this scenario right here. That's like, everything's just going to be horrible. So the first thing I do is I just map out the absolute worst case scenario where everything just goes wrong. Just all the things that could go wrong all at once, they just go wrong. It's your nightmare scenario. Then what I do is I map out the more likely scenario. The more likely scenario is kind of your baseline scenario. That's this line right here. The baseline scenario is like, if you go talk to three experts that have gone through this before, say you're going through health risk, or you're going through a divorce, or your business is in trouble. Go talk to three people that have gone through it before. They'll tell you like, look, a lot of things can go wrong, but like, most likely, given your scenario, these are the things that are gonna happen. So you should just prepare for that. That's what I call like the most likely scenario. Now, when we are freaking out with adversity, all the things in our head, all the voices in our head start to paint all kinds of wild and crazy scenarios. But we get lost in what's likely going to happen. So all the crazy bad scenarios are this one, and the likely scenario is this one. And then I do a third thing. What I say is like, all right, if I were to like really get focused and all the things go my way, and I can even get some grace and some luck, what happens then? How do I get out of this scenario? And that's what I call, that's this third line, that's the upside scenario, where I actually get out of this. And not only do I get out of this, I actually come out stronger and better. So instead of actually sitting there and wallowing or escaping and not looking at adversity straight in the face, what I do is I sit down and I map out the three scenarios. The absolute worst case scenario, the upside scenario, and the most likely scenario, where like, this is probably headed that way. Now look, I get it. People face all kinds of crazy things in their life. And you might be saying, TK, even the likely scenario is really, really scary. I get that. I get that. However, you know what's worse? if you're not looking at it and you're just trying to run the other way, because even if the likely scenario is scary, you might end up in a worse situation if you don't get proactive about it. So you've got all this mapped out. And so what I tell people to do is like, look, you can't ignore it. You can't believe in the lie that problems are never going to exist. This adversity is real. This crisis is real. And there may be more. So you might as well get really good at dealing with them. And over time, you'll actually come out stronger from them. And the best part of this is an adversity and a scary thing that you might encounter today that is so scary. 5 years from now, you'll look back like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Why is that? Was it really not that bad? No, it was bad, but you got better at dealing with it. So adversities and red alerts or whatever it might be will actually diminish in their power over time if you keep taking a more proactive approach around this. So you follow this framework, you've mapped out, you can do this in a Google Doc, you can kind of write it out, whatever, talk it over with a friend. You've got your 3 scenarios, the worst case scenario, the likely scenario, and the upside. So if you're gonna look adversity straight in the face, if you're gonna stop believing the lie that life is perfect, that you can avoid all problems, that you can actually get to a point where you have no more problems in your life, or the fact that life is fair, if you just say like, okay, those are like not true, I don't even know where I got that, must have been some fairy tale cartoon that I saw, this is normal life, this is real life, it can be beautiful, but adversities do happen, here's what you do next. The first thing that you do is you look at your worst case scenario and you get comfortable with it. One of the inspirations for me in starting this thing called Unstoppable is that I went through the worst scenarios in my life. In some cases, I was dealing with bad scenarios simultaneously, both in my personal life and in my business life. And the biggest thing that I realized is nothing ever just stops. There's always a way forward. There's always another way. There's always a way around it. And so even if the absolute worst case scenario happens, the reality is, unless you're dying, which may be a thing, and I'm sorry for that, even if the worst case scenario happens, there's always another way to rebuild, to reconvene, and to keep moving forward. That's where this whole idea of unstoppable comes. It's not that you're truly perfect, it's the idea that there's always road bumps, but there's always another way above those road bumps. You can get ahead of those. You can get over those. Even if it knocks you over, you can get back up and keep going. That's why in our logo, you see a giant U and a comma. The comma is the road bump. It's the roadblock. It's the adversity. It's the obstacles. It's the crisis. But it doesn't stop you. It's only a pause. There's always another way forward. So look at your absolute worst case scenario and just get comfortable with it. Like, look, even if those things happen, that's the worst case scenario. What do I do next? It's happened. What am I going to do? I can't change it. How do I look forward? How do I move ahead? That's what you got to do. Once you get comfortable with that worst case scenario, then you say, okay, well, that's the worst case scenario. I've kind of got my head around it. That would suck a lot. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but at least I know what I would do. Something starts happening in your mind as you do this. You start to realize that, okay, like there are things that I can do. And then you start to realize, well, that was the worst case scenario. So the next thing I want you to do is look at the likely scenario. Even in order for you to hit the likely scenario, you probably have to do a set of things that the experts tell you to do. You probably have to stay diligent. You can't go and escape and just go to the beach and hope that it works out. You need to work at it. So map out what are the things you need to do to get the likely scenario locked down so you actually get the likely scenario. And it may be bad, but at least you get through it. Once you've got the likely scenario locked down, once you visualize what happens with the worst case scenario, this is where the magic starts to happen. I want you to think about the upside. Think about the upside. The upside is the case where someone dealt you lemons and you made lemonade. You had the worst thing happen to you, but you worked through it and you became stronger and you came out ahead. The adversity actually turned out to be the best thing that could happen to you. And this has happened to me. I've gone through adversity where I figured out a way ahead, I figured out another way, and ended up being one of the best things that happened to me. I wouldn't wish that adversity on anyone, but the way I came out, I wouldn't change anything if I were to go back. I'd be like, no, like that was one of the best things. I'm glad that happened. I learned from it. I grew from it. It was horrible. When I was going through it, it was terrible. But now that I'm past it, I'm stronger. Like, I like that. So I want you to figure out, how do you get that upside? The upside is things going your way. You get some luck, you get some grace, whatever you believe in, it goes your way. And you do a set of crazy things that actually pulls you ahead of this scenario, where you beat it and you come out stronger. And I want you to map that out. So you start with, what is the worst case scenario? Get comfortable with it. What is the likely scenario? Do all the things you need to do for that. And then you figure out what's the upside. How do I actually make lemonade out of this? And from here on forward, instead of thinking about adversity and saying, oh my God, this is the worst thing, you look at adversity and say, all right, let me manage my likely case. I've got my downside planned out, and let me do everything that I can, all the crazy things, to manage for my upside. The shift that happens when you do this framework is that you're no longer beholden to your adversity. You're not sitting there saying, oh my God, what do I do? You're saying, no, let's go do things. Let's go do things to the best of my ability. Let's go after the plan. I'm mentally prepared for the worst side. I'm optimizing for the likely scenario, and I'm doing everything I can to get the upside. So actually beat this thing. All right, so my camera battery died, so we're just gonna finish this video on my iPhone. I've learned that escapism is best friends with adversity. It's only when I learned to stare at adversity straight in the face, almost into the abyss, to look at reality really hard, to use the tools at my disposal to actually go solve the problems that are in front of me and to get proactive. That's when I started to get comfortable with adversity. And that's when adversity started to lose power in my life, where even the craziest things might happen, but I have the tools at my disposal to actually deal with it. When things don't go according to plan, when you get that terrible phone call with bad news, when you're staying up at night staring at the ceiling and thinking about all the things that could be going wrong, you're essentially dealing with adversity. The question that I have for you is, are you using the tools that you have at your disposal to actually deal with adversity in a proactive way, to deal with crisis in a proactive way? We're gonna wrap up here. Just comment below to let me know what you think about, how you think about adversity and how you deal with it. Maybe you have a different framework than I do. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please hit the like button. It means the world to us. And if you want to see these videos, which we post every Sunday, hit the subscribe button. And most importantly, if you're looking for more strategies like this, where we help you take a more proactive approach to life, check out the link below for our life planning guide. It's a 2-week course, completely free, and we give you all the tools that you need to get more proactive about your life, including practicing Unstoppable Sunday, where we sit down and ask ourselves the 2 questions, where am I and what do I do next? And we teach you all the context behind that. Thank you for watching, and remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life, but yours needs to be unstoppable. See you next week.